Formula One. How awesome is that? This is John Massengill sitting in the studio at Circuit of the Americas, and I'm joined by Les Kaiser and Mr. Bob Varsha. Well, gentlemen, we have a new championship leader, and we have a win in Monaco for Max Verstappen. How about that?
I don't want to sound overjoyed for Hamilton getting past, but yes!
Well, it certainly is a response to all those haters out there, who are sick and tired of the kind of domination we've seen from Hamilton, and before that from Red Bull, and before that from Ferrari with Schumacher, and before that from McLaren with Senna and Prost. And, these things happen. But today, it was everything I could have asked from a Monaco Grand Prix. There was drama, there was disappointment and heartbreak, there was tremendous driving, great strategy, and it all worked out. So Max gets the championship lead. Sainz is on his first podium for Ferrari in second. Lando Norris looked like he was about to burst into tears by getting up on the podium in third. I mean, it's just terrific.
Yeah, I do love that about Lando. He's such a character, but he does wear his emotions on his sleeve. Mm-hmm. And Max looked just like, this is where I'm supposed to be,
right?
Right.
Yeah, my old Hobbs colleague David Hobbs always used to get annoyed when these race drivers would take off their helmets and their balaclavas and look perfectly groomed, where Hobbs, would be a complete wreck and sweating, like crazy when he got out of his race car back in the day. But that's the level of fitness these athletes handle themselves at.
So Hobbs is looking at Mr. Sainz there, and we know what Hobbs is doing now.
Well, gentlemen, the Speed City F1 post-race show on SiriusXM is brought to you by CrowdStrike. Use the cloud to secure your team in the office, at the track, or anywhere with CrowdStrike at crowdstrike.com/anywhere. Well, it was, Bob. Like you said, we did not have – it was a great Monaco race, but amazingly, we did not have a safety car.
Yeah, I saw a very clever comment on Twitter. This race has been defined by a lot of things that didn't happen. The pole sitter didn't start the race.
Right.
We didn't see a safety car. And we don't see Lewis Hamilton or Valtteri Bottas, for that matter, on the podium for Mercedes. So really a different sort of day in Formula One.
I got to say that, I was right there waiting to see if Hamilton was going to do what we talked about. Just finish, I mean, like we said about Max, just don't screw up. Just go, do your thing, but not get crazy on it. And I was pleasantly surprised in some ways that he didn't go for a charge to the front end, but then it shows – he does have that acumen or that control to sit back there when the strategy is right.
Not a great weekend for Mercedes at all. Of course, Bottas, stripped the wheel nut and was out of the race around midway. Hamilton, I think, was trying hard, but he was just so frustrated. And how much of that goes to the team? Peter Bonington, his engineer, apologized to him at some point for the way the race was unfolding for him. Hamilton gets past. I mean, we talked about pit stops and how important they were in terms of track position. Sebastian Vettel undercuts both Pierre Gasly and Lewis Hamilton with one great in-lap, pit stop, great out-lap, and, there he is. Great day for Aston Martin and Sebastian Vettel as well.
Yeah, Sebastian Vettel has been looking good of late. I'm the first one to say I'll eat my words because I really was expecting Hamilton to not do well this season, but he's looked better lately. Well, let me just run down the order in case you listened on the radio and didn't see any of it. We had Max Verstappen win the race, followed by Carlos Sainz and Lando Norris on the podium, then Sergio Perez in the other Red Bull in fourth, and then Sebastian Vettel in fifth, followed by Pierre Gasly, Lewis Hamilton down in seventh, Lance Stroll in eighth, Esteban Ocon ninth, Giovinazzi in 10th, Raikkonen in 11th, Ricardo, Alonso, George Russell in 14th, Nicholas Latifi, Yuki Tsunoda in 16th, and Mazepin and Schumacher at the bottom of that. Of course, we had Leclerc not starting the race and Bottas out with his pit stop issue. And did we hear the final? Was it on Bottas? Was it the wheel nut, or was it something with the axle? Did they say?
Well, that was the last thing I heard. Was that the wheel nut basically stripped the threading, the splining on the axle. So even if they'd been able to get the front wheel off, they wouldn't have been able to get another one on because they couldn't secure it with the wheel nut. And I think I said Vettel undercut Gasly and Hamilton. May overcut. I'm not sure if he pitted before or after them, but nevertheless, it worked.
Yeah, I mentioned to somebody, about the wheel changing situation. It's like those 4 tires are actually registered. They must maintain that set going through. Mm-hmm. Again, we're out at the Circuit of the Americas for NASCAR weekend, so there's a few folks that were seeing it on the big screen in the media center that probably weren't regular watchers of it seemed.
Yeah, I'm really proud of COTA for putting that up there on those big screens in the media center. Very cool.
So it was kind of fun answering some questions there. But yeah, they were like, wow, you mean, I said, not just do you have to change 4 tires every time, it's those 4 have to be there.
And you have to do it in 2 to 3 seconds.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Or under 2 if you're Red Bull.
Yeah, exactly.
And by the way, if you do hear some commentary from the next booth, our man Jonathan Green, Mr. Loud, is in the next booth over doing NASCAR, and it's bleeding through the walls.
He's talking through both sides of his mouth this weekend.
And through the walls, too. Yeah.
Okay, one more comment on Jonathan. So I was standing out amongst the NASCAR crowd yesterday, and there were some absolute, true NASCAR folks there. Let me just put it that way. And you're hearing Jonathan's obvious accent. I said, guys, what do y'all think of this British guy commentating?
Who's that guy?
And the woman goes, well, I thought it was pretty interesting to begin with that there's a British guy talking about NASCAR. She goes, but then it sounds like he knows what he's talking about. So it was all right by me. And I said, good, because
Brilliant.
he actually does it for overseas.
Yeah, good.
Brilliant.
She actually took him at his word rather than what he sounded like. That's
Yeah.
good to hear.
That is good to hear. And Jonathan does know his NASCAR. He does a bunch of NASCAR for different sports entities around the globe, so he knows it. Well, getting back to the Monaco Grand Prix, it was fantastic viewing, of course, looking at the picturesque, all the turns and everything, and bringing back all the memories. And really, like you said, Bob, it was a great day of Monaco racing. We're actually watching the podium now with the champagne spraying everywhere.
I think they're trying to drown Norris there.
This is another Monaco rule. If you're watching television, see all the dignitaries and the trophy queen standing at the back of the stage.
Yeah.
You are told as a driver before you go on the podium, you do
Not spray
any of those people.
I can only imagine those beauty queens and princesses getting
Don't
sprayed
want to hose down Prince Albert. Nope.
Yeah. And they don't have the steps at Monaco on the podium. Is
Well,
that some sort of rule as well?
That's just a tradition. You're in the royal box, and they don't have a typical traditional 3-step podium. You're just on a red carpet stage. The trophies are on the podiums. Well,
Yeah.
Yeah, they actually have a little
They
bit
do
of a
have some
step
little
this-
tiny ones
maybe
this
they
year.
did stand there.
Okay, yeah.
Well,
Things change. Oh, well. But, yeah, great finish with Max, Carlos, and then Lando. So before we see the results of the vote, driver of the day, who got your vote, Bob?
Ooh,
wow.
yeah.
You'd think Max would be default, but I'm going to give it to Lando, I think.
That's who I was going to say.
Yeah.
I was going to say Lando. I mean, even if it's just personal, because I
voted-
like him.
I voted Lando, and, I really kind of feel like I did see a result earlier that Vettel was way high in the vote ranks. My thoughts were that was just the Tifosi getting behind
Yeah,
a Ferrari
Tifosi
driver.
in all of Germany.
Yeah.
Well, we hadn't talked about Carlos Sainz. I mean, we said he came in second, but, I mean, in the driver of the day, you have to have him in consideration for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. He is up to 7th in the ranking with 38 points. Just above, so a quick rundown was from Sainz, Leclerc above him, and Perez beyond him. We'll get into those standings later, but yeah.
Well, are we thinking that, I mean, look, with Red Bull back on top in the championship, when the season started, everybody was saying Red Bull had the fastest car. They're faster than Mercedes this year by a tick. And then after a couple of races, it looked like maybe Mercedes had the fastest car again. But who knows at the rest of the season. I just love the fact that we are now 5 races in, and we have someone other than Mercedes leading, and we have a possibility of a battle maybe all the way here to Austin, Dakota.
So you've got a couple of teams that are pretty tight. Looking at it, Red Bull and Mercedes are 1 point apart with Red Bull ahead. And then you've got McLaren, Mercedes ahead of, let's see, who was that? Forget now. But anyway, there was a 2-point spread back in that pairing.
Yeah.
So the first 2 are within a point. The second 2 are within 2 points.
2 years ago, Mercedes swept the front row in qualifying for this race by nearly a second. Hamilton and Bottas nearly a second clear of the next fastest car. And now, as you say, A lot of people think the Red Bull may be the better product right now. I think one thing that this result is going to do, since it's Monaco where aerodynamics don't matter so much, the whole guffaffle about flexible wings that was raging in the weeks leading up to this race, not a big deal here because it didn't matter. The next race is at Baku, Azerbaijan, with the longest straightaway in Formula One. I think we're going to hear a lot more about flexing wings in the next couple of weeks.
Talk about that a little bit, Bob. Explain to some of the listeners who may not have followed that.
Well, the concept has been around for a long time. The idea is to create wings, front and rear, that will give you the downforce you want in a quarter and will pass all of the FIA tests because they don't want these things to move. There's a Article 3.9 of the regulations say, no part can move separate from the unsprung part of the car. Well, I don't know the exact words, but the idea is you can't have flexible wings, except, of course, for the drag reduction system, which is mandated by the rules. But the idea of a flexi wing is it will basically flatten itself out under the pressure of the air as the car moves along at high speed, which reduces drag, which gives you extra top-end speed, and then snaps back into position at the time you arrive to the corner to give you the downforce you want at the corner. The idea is your wings must be rigid, or as rigid as they can be made to pass these FIA scrutineering tests. After the last race in Barcelona, Lewis Hamilton was saying he saw Max Verstappen's wing moving. Tests began. Video comes out of everywhere saying not
investigations
only is, the Red Bull wing is moving, the Ferrari wing's moving, the Alfa Romeo wing is moving, and since Mercedes brought it up, the Mercedes front wing was moving. So now everybody's talking about, well, the FIA says we're going to put new rules in place, new tests, load tests on these wings to make sure they do not move. But not for 2 races, not until they go to France. So you go through Monaco where it doesn't matter, Baku where it does.
Sure. So the FIA tech inspection for that involves placing a load, and it's apparently quite significant,
heavy,
in a specific location on the wing. And so, what do smart engineers do? Okay, it's not going to move right there.
Right.
And
exactly.
so that's how they measure it.
All right, we have a caller on the line. By the way, let me give out the phone number if anybody else wants to call, 512-643-5483, and call and join the show. But we got Larry on the phone. I think he's a regular. Right. Larry from Kentucky today. Larry, how are you? Welcome to the show.
Thanks for taking my call, folks. For a race that's essentially a parade for the most part, it was quite entertaining, I must say.
Yeah.
And I was just struck, to your opinion, about the same as mine of Lando Norris being the driver of the race, because the pressure that he withstood down the stretch to maintain his podium finish and didn't buckle. And it showed, I think, his growing maturity in a car. And I'm hoping he at some point is slated for maybe a little bit better ride than he's in right now. But third at Monaco and what he's driving is pretty spectacular.
I agree. I am a big fan of Lando. We've been following Lando. We interviewed him. Jonathan did way back. I think it was Macau, and we've been following him really closely. And I love his personality that he brings a lot to the sport, but he's got the skills to match that.
Yeah, and the reader makes a good point about what he's doing in the car. I think the car has come so far. What McLaren has managed to do from the dark days before and during the years when they had Honda power and were really on the back foot. Zach Brown, Andreas Seidel, all the guys at McLaren deserve a lot of credit for improving that car. Red Bull's not the only one that's drawn closer to Mercedes. So kudos to McLaren, and Lando Norris is he might be best served just staying with that car. We mentioned he's got at least a 2-year extension on his contract, maybe with a 3rd-year option. And I think he's in a really good place right now because that car, I think, is going to get better and better.
Larry,
well, I hope it gets better because you're in a – I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You got it. Go ahead.
I'm saying that the McLaren, you're in a car at Monaco where there's essentially 0 passing zones, and the gentleman behind him was clearly faster but couldn't get around him, and he didn't buckle under the pressure, indicating the car, to me anyway, indicating the car's got a ways to go. That's why I thought it was such a spectacular drive on his part. yes, I think they're making strides, especially with Mercedes power. But you've got to have a chassis equal to the engine power that you're getting. I don't think they're there yet, or maybe am I painting too pessimistic a view?
Well, not much. I mean, we're talking, dribs and drabs here. Certainly, the car that was behind Lando Norris was who finished right behind him.
I think
he was battling with Sainz for
Perez.
a while in the Ferrari. So
Perez.
he's got Sergio Perez in what everybody seems to think is the best car on the grid. So, yeah. He did a great job. But, I don't think the McLaren is that far off, honestly. And, then the question always comes up, where's he going to go? Lando's been a part of the McLaren Mercedes, I guess you'd say, although George Russell with Williams might be ahead of Lando in the queue for a possible drive in a Mercedes. But we don't know when and if that's going to change.
Well, thanks, Larry, for calling. We appreciate it. Appreciate you listening, and always your very insightful comments. Larry is a truck driver and F1 aficionado as well. But, well, gentlemen, I think we are coming up. We got a couple more minutes before the break, so let's squeeze in a little bit more here. What about Sebastian Vettel? He finished right behind Sergio Perez.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we got to be impressed with, I know it seems weird. In fact, we commented, we did not mention Sebastian Vettel's name in the pre-race show at all, but we have to now. At finishing fifth, he's looked impressive.
Yeah, I'm sure he's got to be really, really pleased with his day. And what Larry the viewer just said about no passing, I haven't crunched the numbers, but I would love to put the finish order next to the starting order. A lot of guys basically finished right where they started, but that tells you nothing about what transpired in this race in terms of, the gaps on the track, the pit work, the strategies, the tire degradation, all the things that go into a Formula One race. Yeah, there weren't a lot of possession changes, but that doesn't mean there wasn't a lot of excitement.
Yeah, and that's not what you get at Monaco. You're not going to get that.
But you're not going to see a lot of passing.
And, the team that did the worst today is clearly Mercedes. I mean, we talked about the errors, but which is a rare thing for us to say. We had a Bottas DNF because of his pit stop, and Hamilton losing a spot. Like you said, most people finished where they started, but Hamilton slipped backwards. So it's a rare day for us to say that Mercedes had a bad day. What did we decide? It was their worst day since Nico Rosberg and Hamilton came together way back.
Right. 2016 in Spain.
Yeah. Well, talking of changes, yes, it felt very processional. But Stroll and Perez both improved by 5 spots from grid to finish.
Yeah, there you go.
And so,
but there's no passing in Formula One.
There's not. But these guys found 5 spots.
Right.
And Norris only came up 2, but look where he landed. So that works.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I think we missed the boat. If we're talking about driver of the day, we should have been considering Perez and Stroll.
Yeah, there you go.
Good point.
Yeah.
Of course, the closer to the front you get, too, the harder it is to catch and pass those guys. Because I think Michael Schumacher and Nikita Mazepin and the Haas's back there kind of switch places a bunch of times during the course of their 78 laps.
Well, and you said
that's 1 step forward, 2 steps back, Bob. We can't. That's like an escalator. Sorry, bud.
Well, and you talk about the further up you go, the harder it is to pass. Well, the same thing we were talking about, Lando maybe moving seats. Larry was talking about that. The higher up you go, the harder it is to get to those last couple of steps. And we had someone just tweet us. Paul Bryan said, he said, Larry the caller said Lando should leave McLaren. He says, you want to ask Alonso if he can have his old seat back.
Paul's a very funny guy. I've known him for
I know he's a hilarious guy. He's tweeting at us all the time. All right, guys, well, let's go ahead and take a break. And when we come back, we'll continue our discussion of the Monaco Grand Prix from Circuit of the Americas with NASCAR in the background.
NASCAR.
You're listening to Speed City. Back after these messages.
Hi, this is Max Verstappen, and you're listening to Speed City.
You're listening to Speed City F1 on Sirius XM.
Fantastic job by the producer digging up that Max Verstappen clip.
Always.
That was certainly here at COTA where we got that clip, probably in 2019. And congratulations to Max Verstappen winning the Monaco Grand Prix, taking the championship lead. How exciting is that? I'm sorry if I'm over the top, but I am, because Formula One needs this right now, and it's been a very exciting season so far, but to have Max Verstappen back on top of the championship is great. And I want to continue. We've had lots of people tweeting at us, and we got another regular, Andy P., one of our favorites. Andy P. says, just to add to the discussion on McLaren, he says, because that's what I do, because he's a super fan for McLaren. He said, this was supposed to be a bit of a bogey track, given the concept that they went with this year, high top speed, but struggling a bit in low corners, and they got a podium. I think the car is good.
Podium at Monaco. And you always have to add that qualification. Right. This is Monaco. This is different than anywhere else.
Yeah. And different and fantastic, honestly. I mean, you can see it in the drivers. Having Serena Williams there, waving the checkered flag. Everybody's so excited about Monaco. I honestly don't care if we don't get the best race because it is Monaco and all this. But today we got everything. We got great racing. We got great strategy. We had people swapping up and down, and the fantastic picturesque. I don't know, maybe the excitement because we're out at the racetrack for the first time in a long time out here at COTA. And you might hear a cup car, too, because the NASCAR Cup car qualifying, that's a tongue twister, is happening right now.
Somebody's going to be confused. Wait, they're talking Formula One. That doesn't sound like.
Yeah.
Serena Williams waving the checkered flag brings up a point. Apparently, they do not coach these guest flag wavers at all, because Serena Williams, 23-time Grand Slam tennis champion, I mean, her form on that checkered flag really could have used some work.
This is the two-handed back swing.
I mean, this woman, hits 125-mile-an-hour serves, and really all she can kind of do is, wave it like she's swatting flies or something. And I'm not picking on Serena because we've had a bunch of these.
Yeah.
I remember Brazil one year when Gisele Bündchen, Tom Brady's wife, the supermodel, was up there, and she waved it a lap early because nobody was tapping her on the shoulder.
That's
saying,
right.
Don't do it until we tell you.
Yeah, it's happened twice.
Yeah, Pele did it once. It's, give these people a little tutoring.
Just a little coaching. Don't hand them the flag until it's time to wave it, too.
And Serena's got the guns for it.
Oh,
she could have been
gosh.
going crazy with it.
Yeah.
But I do like when they were interviewing her, or actually was standing by with the interview with Max, she seemed very humble, and the commentator said, "Can you give Max some tips?" And she was like, "Are you kidding? Not in this arena." But she was very humble. It was nice to see that.
Have her bring my supercar around, and Max can take me for a lap.
Yeah,
there you go.
That's what you want.
Yeah, for sure. Well, what else, gentlemen, about today's race? Let me just look down the grid a little bit. So, we talked about Vettel, and it was Vettel in 5th, Gasly in 6th, Hamilton in 7th, of course, where he said he lost. Lance Stroll in 8th. That they got to be pretty happy. Bob, don't you think, with Vettel in 5th and Stroll in 8th for this weekend? That's got to be pretty happy for the Aston Martin team.
I mean, success or improvement, I should say, comes in pretty small increments sometimes.
Yeah.
And there were big changes for the former Racing Point team becoming Aston Martin. New ownership, probably a lot of job changes, a lot of investment in their factory at the Silverstone circuit in Great Britain. So, they've got new shoes, and their feet are growing to fit those shoes. But under Otmar Safnauer's veteran leadership, and Otmar is an American, which we like to point out when we can.
Yes, absolutely.
They're improving, and let's credit Vettel. We've been picking on him for a long time, but
yes,
there's probably some veteran leadership there where he can say to people, "Okay, here's what we're doing. Let's try this. Let's try that." And they could be a great story by the end of the season.
What do you think we can attribute? Early in the season, you were talking about how over the years you've seen Vettel. He's got to have the right car, and he feels like he never really got there with Ferrari. But obviously now something's going right. Do you think that they've adjusted the car to fit him a little bit? Do you think he's gotten used to it? What do you think?
Well, it's probably a little bit of both. And it's when he came into the sport with Red Bull, he was really the blonde-haired boy. He was Helmut Marko, who was the racing director for the team, loved him. He was his boy. Just ask Mark Webber, his teammate for those years, about who had the upper hand, who had driver priority at Red Bull. It was Vettel, and he repaid the team with 4 straight world championships and some pretty darn dominating seasons of 8 or 9 victories. So it's a little bit different when you're not in that environment, or the team can't respond to your needs as a driver when it comes to improving the car, or you're in a place like Ferrari with its regal history, in which you're going to get the improvements that we get for you, and
exactly what I was thinking.
You're not the big shot here that you were at Red Bull.
We are Ferrari, and we have the great car. You adapt.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, and we brought it up a few weeks ago with Gunther Steiner, and we asked him directly. Said, there were some things online about why did you get rid of veteran drivers and go with 2 rookies for the season? And one of the comments online was, we know what we're doing with the car. You figure out how to drive it. And he kind of acknowledged, yeah, kind of.
Yeah, that's funny. Years ago, I heard from Jeff Gordon's stepdad, John, guided Jeff's early career when he was a teenager. They moved from California to Indiana, where Jeff could race big, fire-breathing sprint cars at a much younger age than he could out in California. I think he could drive like as a 15, 16-year-old in Indiana. And his stepdad had that kind of effect in his career. And when Jeff moved to NASCAR, his stepdad played a big role in selecting the team. And his dad would kind of give lectures to parents of young drivers. He said, I wanted Jeff to get in a team, not a team that was going to say, we'll get the car together, you get in and drive it, and don't bother us. He said, I wanted him to go into a team where he could speak his mind and where they would listen to him. And if he was wrong, they would explain how he was wrong, help make him a better driver, not just get in the car and figure it out, as you just described.
It's so funny. You think about a guy like Jeff Gordon, and you think, oh, he's amazing. He would have done great anywhere, but not necessarily so. Think about that, how his father may have changed his entire trajectory
no question.
And career by having him in the right team.
Yep.
It's so important in motor racing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, look at this picture, guys. I brought this up. This is a tweet from Formula One, and this is Lando Norris holding his trophy, his podium trophy, and staring at it, looking down. And don't you know, I wish we didn't have the mask right now, but I would love to see that, because he's probably the reason they tweeted that, I'm sure he's full of emotion and no telling if a tear or two, because a podium at Monaco, that's a great photo.
Well, he said during his interview with David Coulthard on the TV show, he said he referenced the trophies. He said,
he did?
That trophy is up there, and he really wanted to get his hands on that. I guess sort of a very real embodiment of what you just did, right? It's not a line on a piece of paper. It's this wonderful sculpture I hold in my hands.
Well, let me read off the 2021 team standings right now. Red Bull ahead of Mercedes, not only in the Drivers' Championship, but in the team standings, 149 points ahead of Mercedes by 1 point. And then McLaren down in 80 points in third. Ferrari is right behind them in 78 points. Then Aston Martin, AlphaTauri, Alpine, Alfa Romeo, Williams, and Haas. And speaking of the Haas team, I mean, there's not much to talk about right now, gentlemen, but we do have a great interview. I'm really excited to play this. We're going to play some of this here in the next segment with Romain Grosjean, because we caught up with him and to talk about his great weekend at Indy in the IndyCar Series, where he took the pole and came in second. We've got that interview coming up next. And I wanted to play it because he talks about Monaco in it, and he also talks about the sounds you may hear in the background, which are the NASCAR Cup cars at the Formula One track here in Austin at Circuit of the Americas. So we'll have that coming up in the next segment. But as far as the Monaco race today, I mean, I'm looking at just some of the tweets and some of the clips on different social media, and Max Verstappen coming up on the podium, looking like he belongs there, looking like this is the place where Red Bull needs to be. What do you think, Les?
Oh, I think you caught it just right. Max looked like he belonged there. He drove like he belonged there. We've known he does this, and the guy drives confidently. He pulls out a wild move once in a while. You know, we got new berms on 16, 17, 18 here at COTA with Max's name on it.
Yeah, good point.
But you know, it's not how you break the rules; it's how you use them and bend them. And he, rightly so, capitalizes in these different gaps when he sees them in competition. You know, he's not a wild man anymore. He's matured well.
Yeah, he has crashed here a lot, and now he really did show a maturity. A couple of notes from my old stat guru, Sean Kelly.
Yeah, he's great.
Verstappen set the fastest average time in winning this race. A record used to be held by Fernando Alonso at about 97 miles an hour. 96 miles an hour. Verstappen went faster, set a new record about 98 miles an hour. Average speed around a track with as many slow corners as this. This may be, I mean, think about it. We didn't have a red flag or safety car. We didn't have a yellow flag. We didn't have a local yellow. When was the last time that ever happened?
Oh, yeah.
Monaco. It's crazy.
Yeah, Monaco especially.
And the third point was Honda. This is the first time a Honda-powered team has led the World Championship since Ayrton Senna took his last title in 1991.
Wow, those are great stats. Yeah. What's Sean's Twitter, Statman, something like that?
Virtual Statman.
Virtual Statman. Yeah, you need to follow him if you're an F1 fan because he's got this.
He puts some great stuff out there.
Yeah. Yeah,
well, I wonder if Maylander, our safety car driver Maylander, got caught up on his napping.
Yeah, really.
Yeah,
he's done a lot of driving recently.
Yeah.
How long was that mile per hour around Monaco? I mean, that record stood for
2007, I think.
That's amazing in Formula One. You know, considering the progression and I'm kind of surprised that this year is faster than last year. I mean, it's because of the safety cars and all that. The lack of 2 years ago. Good point. But yeah, that is surprising. But well, gentlemen, let's go ahead and take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll have more on the Monaco Grand Prix from Circuit of the Americas, and we'll have that interview with Roman Grosjean, and more to come after that. You're listening to Speed City live from Austin, and we'll be back after these messages.
Hi, this is Gene Haas, and this is Speed City.
You're listening to Speed City F1 on Sirius XM.
Welcome back to the show. Yes, that's Billy Joel you hear. And if you want to hear Billy Joel ahead of a Formula One race, you can come to Circuit of the Americas in October because they've announced that Billy Joel's coming. And there's another surprise Friday night guest that we don't know yet. We don't even know yet. Nobody knows outside of Bobby Epstein's office.
That's right. And that was Gene, not Gunther.
And that was Gene, not Gunther. All right, let's have a word from our sponsor. Has your workforce moved from the office to the home or to the garage, or maybe a rented cabin with open Wi-Fi? If your company's expanded outside the office and moved all your applications to the cloud, there's a whole new world of threats you have to worry about, including ransomware. That's been in the news a lot lately. CrowdStrike revolutionized security by harnessing the speed and the power of the cloud to identify and stop the most advanced cyber attacks, even those that have never been seen before. So now you can work securely anywhere. Try CrowdStrike Falcon free today and protect your data and employees anywhere. Welcome to Anywhere. CrowdStrike. We stop breaches. Access the CrowdStrike platform free at crowdstrike.com/anywhere. You know, that ransomware, that was the big gas pipeline shut off. Apparently that's what happened as they ended up having to pay somebody. So
I live in Atlanta. That was headline news every day for a week.
Yeah.
Was the fact that we had no gas. And, yeah, finally the head of the Colonial Pipeline Company admitted they paid $4.4 million.
Wow.
Is there any truth that Elon Musk was behind it? Teasing.
Well, Bob, we did not have that problem down here in Texas with getting gasoline.
Noticed that.
We make our own.
I hate you guys and your gas prices.
You should just come join us, dude.
Hey, whiz. Well, yeah, tell me about it. Got a nice cheap house for sale?
No, not at all. Can't even rent one.
No, thank you.
Not in Austin, Texas. Man, Austin is just totally on fire these days with all the employees that Elon Musk is hiring down here in the real estate market. I know it's hot all over the United States, but Austin is crazy. But Austin is on fire today because we've got NASCAR on track today doing qualifying as we speak, and the race coming up here in a little while. But we are talking Formula One right now and Monaco GP. But there's a couple of stories, Bob, that you had in our show doc today that I wanted to touch on. And before I forget about it, Max had never been on the podium at Monaco. That was one of the other things that we talked about. We talked about that we hadn't talked about because Max is leading the championship now, but he's never been on the podium at Monaco.
True that.
But talk about the Brazil, Japan, and Singapore possibly in doubt because with COVID.
Well, the rumors have started that certainly we all know that Brazil remains a hot spot. Japan is struggling with the idea of holding the massively expensive Summer Olympic Games due to their problems, lockdowns in various precincts around the country. And now I heard from a Formula One writer that Singapore is suddenly having issues, which is interesting because they were apparently dealing with the pandemic in a fairly straightforward and effective way, but apparently things have taken a downturn there too. And I mean, Singapore is a bit like Monaco in that the population density is so great that the idea of getting people together in a big crowd with a potential virus going around does not appeal. So, nothing's definite, but I would think that Brazil, Japan, and Singapore, are prominent among the races that might still be canceled.
Yeah, which would be...
It's, for what it's worth, I'm predicting we're still going to see a lot of upheaval in the calendars, not just for Formula One, but for other international series.
Yeah. We talked about this on our local radio show here in Austin, and that is the fact that we got NASCAR here today. They actually did a really good job. I had people asking me about how they handled the pandemic last year, and this year they kind of led the way. They were the first to go racing in 2020 and did a great job and kind of taught. I know for a fact that Formula One teams and the series and all that were watching what was going on in NASCAR.
Have we already talked about the fact that Turkey has been definitively canceled?
That's right.
France being brought forward a week, and Austria will host a doubleheader again.
I don't think we had mentioned that. That's right. We talked about it last week locally, but yeah. We did have another tweet at us. It was D. Nelson, and he said, do we know what happened to Mick Schumacher? Well,
you mean today or back at the contract signing time?
Yeah, when he signed. Well, look, he had a crash in qualifying and didn't, start at the back. Of course,
Actually, in practice,
practice,
qualifying.
yeah,
So
sorry.
he didn't qualify at all.
Didn't qualify at all, and wouldn't have started, honestly, much different. But, the Haas team is just struggling this year.
That's probably not a good strategy not to try to qualify.
Yeah.
Well, if you don't have a car, you can't qualify.
But, D, thanks for listening, and thanks for tweeting at us. But speaking of the Haas team,
Hold on. Driver of the day just came up.
Well, wait, I want to save that.
There you
Keep
go.
that in your pocket because I want to play this interview with Grosjean that we got because just a couple days ago, Jonathan Green and I sat down with Romain Grosjean to talk about his IndyCar fantastic weekend at Indianapolis at the road course. And also we talked about Monaco and we talked about NASCAR. So let's hear that clip from Romain Grosjean now.
Okay. All right, Speed City fans, we are excited to have Romain Grosjean once again back on the show after his incredible weekend in IndyCar on pole, coming in second place in the race. Romain, you got to be over the top excited about your IndyCar race last weekend.
No, for sure. Yes, it's been a great weekend, and I think the pole position was something very special. It is the time where you want to be the fastest, and we've done that, and that was absolutely amazing. The race is pretty good as well. When you start on pole, you're always going to be a bit disappointed not winning the race, especially with the pace that we've shown. But I think generally we can only be happy about that weekend. And a lot of people were asking me what would be a good season in IndyCar, and I say a podium, fighting in the top 5-10, being on pole and fighting for the win. I wasn't expecting that, so very happy with it.
Well, I tell you what I've been most amazed with is how the fans are reacting to you right now. It is amazing. Everyone is so excited to see you do well in IndyCar. I mean, and not just American fans, but fans all over the world. I think you have created this amazing shift in fan base, to be honest. It's really fun to watch and incredible.
It's been incredible, the support. And also I think I can be the real Romain Grosjean in IndyCar. I can be the one I like to be, my own personality, and I think people love it. And obviously, my story, you can't stay not sensitive about it. I was in the fire for 28 seconds. Millions of people thought I was gone, and I walk out of the fire at the hospital and decide to come back racing on a brand new challenge, something very different, and put all my my heart at work. So for me it was beautiful to do that decision, to make that decision, but to see that the support I'm having at the racetrack, on the street, on social media has been absolutely incredible.
Romain, we spoke many times during your Formula One career. Obviously one of the frustrations being part of a less strong team is that sort of motivation factor. And I'm sure it got to both you and Kevin. In fact, it was obvious it did at times. Nothing through your fault. You drove the wheels off that Haas as best you could. But just tell me how, as a racing driver, it felt to be competitive again, taking that pole and then basically having a chance to win a race.
I said many times, I don't regret anything from Formula One. I've had 10 years, great experience. I think people realize now that Kevin and myself, we were really driving that Haas and above the level that the car was at the last few years, which is also cool to see, people realize. But now hearing my engineer telling me we're P1 is, there's nothing else you want to hear when you're a race car driver. And, we're a small team with Dalecoin, but we're working really hard. I've got a really good relationship with my engineer, and we've shown that we can fight at the front. And that's absolutely amazing. And, I want more. I want more of P1. I want more pole position. I want more fight at the front. And I love that about IndyCar, that everyone gets a chance to come and compete to the highest level. And, there's such big respect between the driver. I got text messages from the drivers after my pole position were being happy for me. I'm like, okay, that is fantastic. I've never experienced something like that before. I love it. I love it.
Romain, it sounds like a new pair of slippers. You've slipped into IndyCar just as comfortable as can be. Have you changed your ambition now with it? I mean, what is the long term? I figure you're going to be here a long time.
I don't know. We'll see. But for sure, I'm happy. For sure, I came to look for something, and I found it. And yes, at the moment, I would like to do more, just because the experience is great. It's brand new. It's not going to be. We knew it wasn't going to be family-wise going to be easy. I'm away quite a bit from home and so on, but. Also, when I'm back home, they see me so happy, so fulfilled with what I like to do, racing and racing, and being a competitor with the same chances as the others. That I think, I mean, if you ask my wife, she'd be more than happy to come over in America. We'll see. But yes, I think there could be a cool story going on.
Romain, I was thinking about you right after that poll. I was thinking, I wonder if he's changed his mind about the ovals. I wonder if he's ready to do the ovals after doing so well and getting that pole. I mean, has it crossed your mind yet?
It's a difficult question, and I'm probably less strong on my answer than I was early in January. It's hard to see the guys running. It's hard. It was hard in Texas. It's hard now to watch them going in Indy for the 500 and not being there. But also, I know that for my wife, my parents, my friends, my kids, right now, that's the step we needed to do. It was, I said it was a team decision where they approved the fact that I was going to go back to racing because they could tell I wanted to, but also, we had to put some limits, at least for the first year. So, never say never. Let's see what comes next. But obviously, I've changed a bit my answer from a no to never say never.
Well, I had a blast interviewing Romain, and we've got some more of that where he talks about Monaco and he talks about NASCAR at COTA. So we're going to play the rest of that here in just a bit. But
I love the end of it of that bite where he says, "So I went from a hell no to a well, that kind of looks interesting."
I would have liked to ask him right after the poll that he got if he's obviously feeling confident, but that has been fascinating to watch Grosjean after he left Formula One and how, like I said in that interview, the fan base.
Yeah.
How you remember Grosjean was pretty hated. I mean, you couldn't say it's not as bad as Mazepin on social media now, but most of the time when you said his name, there were some haters.
As a younger man, yeah, especially.
Yeah.
He crashed a lot. He was actually sat down by Formula One after a collision with Mark Webber, I'm thinking, at Suzuka, Japan. And Mark called him a nutcase, and they parked him for a race.
Yeah.
But, I mean, he really has done a lot to, I don't know, rehabilitate is too harsh a word, I think, but he has been able to show his true colors. And after that horrific crash and fire in Bahrain, he's become almost a deer figure.
Yeah.
We may not like you a lot, but we sure don't want to lose you.
Yeah.
So, that's great. He's got a lot of personality. He's great for whatever motorsport he's in, I think.
Yeah, he's doing some commentary, and you'll hear that in the second half of the interview. He's doing some commentary now. I thought, you know what, he's pretty good.
He's a thoughtful guy.
Yeah. I just checked what's trending on Twitter, and not only is the Monaco Grand Prix trending, but so is COTA, and so is Serena Williams. So, yeah, there's a little bit of motorsports activity out on and that's, trending nationwide. So nothing wrong with that.
So we made Serena Williams famous, huh?
That's right. It was us.
There you go. Done. Yep.
All right, guys. Well, let's go ahead and take our last break. And when we come back, we'll continue our discussion about the Monaco Grand Prix and Circuit of the Americas and more. You listen to Speed City, and we'll be back after these messages.
I'm Jenny Gow from BBC F1. You are listening to Speed City.
You're listening to Speed City F1 on Sirius XM.
Speaking of thunder, we have not seen any lightning or thunder or heard any thunder.
It up.
Yeah, out here at Circuit of the Americas today, and we are out here. And I want to throw it to you, Les, because there is some surprising news on the Formula One Monaco Driver of the Day.
Driver of the Day. Okay, well, let's start backwards right quick. Max Verstappen, 9% of the vote.
In fifth, right?
In fifth.
Yeah.
Carlos Sainz with 12. Lando with 14. Sergio with 17. I should have made y'all guess. Sebastian Vettel with 23.6. Did he inherit Charles Leclerc's votes?
I don't know, but I'm still surprised that Vettel, I mean, I like it. I do like that choice. But it just wasn't on my radar, honestly.
Yeah, that's interesting. I would have put that down to a big swell in the votings from Germany for Sebastian Vettel. But, I mean, who knows? The team is based in England, so maybe he picked up a lot of those votes. I mean, I have no problem with Sebastian Vettel being chosen as driver of the day. I'm just surprised that Max was that far down, that Sainz didn't get more votes than
Okay,
that.
but do you think it possibly could have been that we, as Monaco is, there's not a lot of passing. He just had to stay out front and stay wide and not hit anything?
Sure. I mean, I don't even know what the makeup of the votership is, whether it's a bunch of guys in a bar all
I don't either. I'm assuming it's online, but
I voted.
All right, guys, we have a caller on the line. Mike has been holding a while. We appreciate you sticking with us, Mike. How are you today?
Oh, I'm still doing well. Enjoyed the race. And I don't want to overload it, but I got a few points, like who did call the race? You asked me. I said Max, of course, but that was just me. And then as far as the flag waving, I think that Serena did make a good point when she talked about all these people are real athletes. These guys don't just go out there and do it. They have to work at it.
Yep, great point.
And then also, I'm thinking that Mercedes had a bad weekend. That's true. And I think to me, Hamilton seems to get a bit upset, when things don't go exactly as they should, which I guess we all do when we're wanting to make our day. But, at some time, he and Mercedes will both fail to these younger and different teams and drivers, I think. And on another note, I think maybe Mr. Varsha should get a pocket watch.
Why is that?
Well, something about visiting some people, and this gal sat down at a bar stool beside
did you hear
him.
that story? Wait a minute. Well, no.
Oh, I'm sorry. That was during a break. And a real question is, with Grosjean, is it easier over the years? I've tried to watch it and see how it does. Guys that go from Indy to Formula One, particular Michael Andretti, and then guys that go from Formula One to Indy, is the transition easier in one direction than the other?
Well, I guess it depends on your perspective. Certainly, in terms of your lifestyle, I think IndyCar is a lot easier. The drivers were all typically based here in the United States, so it's possible to get home and sleep in your own bed at night and all that kind of thing. Whereas in Formula One, it's an awful lot of living out of a suitcase, as as a lot of drivers have learned. Michael Andretti tried to solve that problem by jetting back and forth on Concorde, as his dad did, and coming home between races and not spending time in the garage and so forth. And that turned out to be something that worked to his disadvantage. I'd say it's probably a bit easier for the drivers to come to IndyCar, although I don't know if it was Roman Grosjean or someone else who said, he came from Formula One and found out that the IndyCars don't have power steering, and they are a real handful to muscle around, especially on road courses. So, actually driving the car might be a more difficult physical exercise in IndyCar than it is in Formula One. But the G-forces may be higher in F1. So there's pluses and minuses to every different perspective you look at it from.
Well, Mike, thanks, buddy. We appreciate you. We appreciate you calling in. We appreciate you listening and all of your input. We love it. Thank you very much for calling, and we'll talk to you soon. All righty. I want to go ahead and play the rest of the Grosjean interview because it's really good. He talks about Monaco, and he also talks about NASCAR at COTA. And
I think Mike needs to drop a Corvette off here.
Yeah. Mike definitely need to do that. All right, well, let's go ahead and hear the rest of that interview we did with Romain Grosjean a couple days ago.
Well, you're beating that non-oval guy, the other non-oval guy, Mr. Johnson. You may have heard of him. But tell us, just tell us how hard or how easy it has been and the characteristics of the car. I know they're a lot heavier and obviously a lot duller compared to the reaction of a Formula One car. But what is some of the things that you've noticed about driving IndyCar?
Well, I think if, even being on top of taking the bigger picture, I think they suit my driving style. I think that's where I got lucky. I think that's one of my engine that Haas told me. He worked in IndyCar before, and he says, I think you're going to like it. You're going to like the tires, you're going to like the car, and I think you're going to do well. And I agree. They actually suit my driving style quite well. You can attack the corner, you can brake late and carry some brake into it. And yes, it's super heavy. I mean, after 35 laps in Indianapolis, I was hoping that there was not many left, and there were 50 to go. The steering wheel is heavy, but the pace is amazing in the race. You're just about a second slower than in qualifying, second and a half, whereas in Formula One, it's 5, 6, 7 seconds slower, and you just push it. The tires are doing really good. There's very little fuel on the tank, so the car is always kind of light, even with full tank. And you can brake late and carry some good speed in the corner, and that's something I love doing.
I got to ask you, I was thinking about you this morning watching Monaco. Were you up watching and checking out the practice and everything this morning in Monaco?
Yeah, I've been watching it. I've been watching most of the session, the quali, the race. I'm actually commenting the qualifying and the race on the French TV this weekend. So it's a cool experience for me. A lot of people ask me, so how does it feel? It feels good. I'm a racing fan. Don't forget that. I love seeing racing cars and I love seeing Formula One, but I don't want to be there. I don't want to be there to fight at the back. Obviously, if you get a phone call from Mercedes, Red Bull, Ferrari, well, there's a different story, but that's not going to happen. So anyway, I love watching it. It's great. It's a cool championship, especially this year. The fight between Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen gets actually quite sexy. And I think we're going to see more of it. But it's just happy to watch it and no hard feeling about it.
It's funny, Jonathan. We were talking yesterday. You said you were commentating. I said to Jonathan yesterday, I said, Romain would be a great commentator in motorsports. He's enthusiastic. I said you'd be a great commentator. Are you enjoying that?
Well, it's going to be my first. Actually, I did it back in the days, about 10 years ago. I did it on the DTM championship, and I enjoyed the experience. But it's going to be my first one doing it in Formula One this weekend. The good thing is that the commentator is one of my best friends. It was my wife's best man at the wedding, so I know him very well. So, the relationship's going to be kind of easy. But yes, I know everything about Formula One, so I'm going to be pretty good at explaining what's going on.
We'd like to book you for the US Grand Prix whenever you're ready. It's in October. I'll send you an invite.
The booth. We'll give you the code to the booth.
You can do it in French, English, whatever you like. I bet you'll also be interested to see NASCAR at COTA. That's going to be interesting, is it not?
Yeah, I drove some lap in NASCAR at COTA last 2 years ago, actually, with Tony Stewart. On the car, and it's going to be a challenge for the guys. It's definitely going to be a challenge, and it was so funny to drive the NASCAR, enjoying it, and then the day later I was in a Formula One car on the same track, and I was like, oh bloody hell, this is fast. But it's going to be a good race.
We're doing the same thing. So Sunday morning we're calling Monaco, and we'll go take a break, come back to the booth, and call the NASCAR race from COTA. So we'll be all day at COTA on Sunday. So yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Romain, last thing we want to talk to you about is the R8G esports thing. This is something that's really taking on a life of its own. I mean, it started small, but boy, you going big time now. SRO.
Yes, we are. We're expanding. We just created a collaboration with a new. A well-known team on Assetto Corsa, so we're going to do SRO. We're on our racing. We're on F Factor 2. We hope virtual Le Mans will come back. I'm actually hoping that Motorsport Games going to do Le Mans, Petit Le Mans, Sebring, Daytona, all of those races that you actually want to see on sim racing and get, in the winter when the real driver. I've got some time off with the sim racer. I like the mix. I think it's a great experience. It's where I was actually racing myself this morning at LMP2 Montreal in Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. And I love it. It's just great experience. I share the track with some people, and the team is doing pretty well. I'm very proud of them.
Well, Romain Grosjean, we thank you so much. We appreciate your time. We know you're a busy guy. We appreciate your time. Everybody here in the United States is a big fan, just like we talked about, and we look forward to seeing how good you do in Indy. And please come back on later in the season and tell us how you're doing.
Will do.
Merci beaucoup, monsieur.
Merci.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Have a great day.
What are you commentating for?
All right. Well, that was fun to catch up with Romain Grosjean. And Bob, you were commenting on that photo that they had at the Indy Grand Prix of him with his hand, the skin grafts.
His hand on the trophy. I mean, what a great visualization of the sacrifice these drivers are prepared to make for that hardware. It's you can read it in a lot of different ways, but he's a remarkable story.
I saw it as a powerful recovery image.
Mm-hmm.
It could have been so different, and even all the things that he was going through. He sleeps in jelly-filled mitts right now. I was watching another video on it, and that's what he does every night.
Yeah. Well, we are just about out of time. I'm really excited about what happened here today at Monaco because Max Verstappen wins the race, and not only wins the race, but puts himself in the championship lead, puts the Red Bull team in the constructors' lead ahead of Mercedes, and sets us up for the rest of the season to have competitive racing. We've had great racing this season so far. It's been it's really kind of given us a little bit of everything so far, and we can't complain about any of that. Gentlemen, any final thoughts about Monaco today?
Well, it certainly was a terrific race and a great experience, and I keep looking ahead in my mind to the next race, which could hardly be more different than Monaco, on the sweeps and straightaways of Baku, Azerbaijan. As I said, I think there'll be a lot of back and forth among the teams about flexi wings and all that kind of stuff. Fortunately, track limits won't be an issue because there are trackside walls for this street circuit. But it's a fascinating place, and it'll be a great race.
I'll say that this had a bigger impact on the season than I expected.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Mm-hmm.
Had a huge impact.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, gentlemen. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Thanks, everybody, for calling. And thanks, everybody, for tweeting at us. We really appreciate it. And if you want to catch our next broadcast, go to our website. Go to our Twitter feed, actually. And we're going to go back on the microphones in an hour. So thanks, everybody. And we'll talk to you next Sunday night or in an hour.
Ciao, y'all.